Good morning and welcome to Viewpoint. It's 8:15 in the morning on a Wednesday and time once again for Viewpoint. This morning we are going to be talking about Goodwill Industries. The Goodwill store, which has been very nice, by the by, in Lincoln, is in the process of moving, and I was telling them that I had stopped in there yesterday, not being able to envision how a person or people would move a whole store. What a job. They were like bees at the hive. Everybody was just working as fast and as hard as they could. So we're going to be talking about that and about the history of Goodwill and all the things that it does for the communities in which it serves. And our guests today are Sharon Durbin. She's the CEO and president of the Land of Lincoln Goodwill Industries. And with her is Patrick Anderson, and he's the manager of marketing and communications. And I greatly appreciate your coming today to tell us about Goodwill. It's been around for a long, long time, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. It actually was formed back in the late 1900s by a Boston minister who saw the need to help the community and took donations from the community and then opened the doors for people to come in and take whatever they needed. And when he did that, the people just pushed and shoved and, was pulling things out of each other's hands. And so it really bothered him the way that happened. So then he decided to rethink his plan, and once again he went before his congregation and asked them to give donated clothing or whatever. Only this time he opened the doors of the church and he told them that anybody is willing to come in, but you have to work for it. And so if clothes need to be mended or buttons need to be on or washed or ironed or whatever, and then at the end of the day you can take whatever you need for your family. And so that's how the whole premise of a hand up, not a handout, started with Goodwill. And that's pretty much, it is our line mission within the whole organization. And then in 1938, Land of Lincoln Goodwill actually formed its own entity of the chapter of Goodwill. And so we've been in the Springfield area since 1938.
Well, that goes back a ways, too. You're going to be approaching 100 years before you know it, aren't you?
That's right.
That's interesting. That's a much better approach than handouts, really.
Right.
To have a hand up. I like the way you phrased that. And you're still doing that today.
Yes, we are.
And then it all runs over into serving people in the community who have trouble finding employment. So let's talk about that end of Goodwill.
Well, we call that our mission services, and bottom line, it's all about providing services and work opportunities for individuals with severe disabilities or any type of disability or any type of obstacle that they might have in order to obtain employment. So not only do we have services that help individuals that have some type of disability, we actually employ them inside of our retail stores. And then others who might come through our doors that have obstacles in life skill development or just basic resume writing or computer skills. We actually have computer labs set up, which Lincoln will be one of those. And individuals can come in and learn how to, time management or how to interview for a job or any of those type of things. And then, as I said, we also employ individuals who may not otherwise have a job. That because of a disability, we employ them within our organization as well.
Let's talk about all the services that you have, the programs for people that start with to write a resume, and that's not a very easy thing to do at all.
No, it isn't.
So it's something that you have to have in this day and age if you are looking for employment. So let's talk about taking a person, just John Doe, from the very beginning as you become acquainted with him through Goodwill Industries.
Well, as I said, there's actually two avenues that happens. One avenue is if they are referred to our agency from another agency, from a church or from another person that may have gone through the program, and they set up an appointment with one of our career development specialists, and they come in and they're interviewed to find out what it is, what are their goals. If they don't have goals, our career development person will help them realize in order to really get focused in life, they need to set up goals. And then from that point, it's, for example, if they want to get a job, they'll talk to them, do you have a resume? Do you have an updated resume? And they say, I've never written a resume. Then they'll actually sit down with them and help them to identify their strengths and put into the body of that resume what the employer is going to be looking for.
Does this counselor that you're referring to stay with them as kind of a mentor then?
They stand there with them as far as a mentor to the aspect that they will give them a hand and guide them and mentor them in each step. For example, like they'll encourage them to look for the jobs that they're interested in once they've got the resume built, and then they'll do actually a mock interview with them, and they'll talk about how they should look in order to make a good presentation to that employer, what to wear, what not to wear, how to do the eye interaction. Always make sure you have eye contact when you're answering, the questions being addressed to you. All of those things that's going to set them up for success.
These are things that many, many people could take advantage of, even though they may not be considered in any way impaired. But you see people come to try to interview for a job, and they're wearing their pajama pants,
Right.
And it's just somehow doesn't seem appropriate. So these are things that are important, and people think that their diction isn't important, and they think that spelling isn't important. But all these things are a part of getting a job, and you won't get one if you don't display these things. And how is a person to know if someone doesn't help them know?
Right. It's amazing to all of us how many individuals out there don't understand those basic skills that you need in order to be successful for a job interview. And I'm just thankful that we have that opportunity to present that service inside of Goodwill. And as I said, that's only one aspect of it. We also have our other side of it, that we help people with disabilities. And those are usually referred to us from other state agencies or other churches, or sometimes family members will come to us. And that is one whole part of the organization right now that we're kind of redesigning to make sure that we're meeting all the needs of those individuals, and that we're keeping everything within a given budget and a different structure than what we used to do business doing. Because just like a business, even though we're a nonprofit, we have to look at what's going out and what's coming in and make sure that we have a sound program. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the things that we're working on, and reorganizing that whole aspect of that side of mission services. But our main focus is that when we bring somebody into the organization, that when we are helping them, that we're staying true to our mission of giving someone a hand up and not a handout.
Right. Now, as they come to you from these other state agencies, how do you urge them to become all they can be? If they come into your program and they're working on, for instance, clothing, to be sure that it's something that you would want to put out, rather than something that's stained or torn and can't be used in that manner. We'll go into how it can be used. And all they're doing is sorting clothing, but they could do more. Do you keep track of them then, so that they, in fact, do all they can possibly do?
Oh, yes. They start in, especially someone with a disability, in order for us to really maximize our services to that individual, they go through what we call a time study. And it's identified what particular tasks that we feel that, because of the disability, that they are capable of doing, so that we're giving them pride in that very work. And that we're not just putting them in an area where just because they have a disability, that we think that's all they can do. So we're always looking at ways to enhance and promote their self-esteem and their value within themselves. And then from that point, once we find that niche that works for them, that might be just hanging clothes up on a hanger. A lot of them cannot process clothes, looking for those stained and torn items. So we have a group of employees that does that, and then the person with a disability will just take the already processed clothes out and hang them. And we have some individuals that can hang 1,500 garments in one day. To me, that's amazing. I don't know that I could hang 1,500 garments in a day, but they get so good at what they're doing, and it gives them such pride. I often have told employees before, I said, if I could hire 1,000 people with the same attitude and the same outlook on life, because they're excited to come to work, they're excited to be there, they are our joy in the environment that we work in. I mean, there's days that I just feel like the world's crushing down on me because of just, life. But I walk in and they want to give you a high five, and they're all shouting your name, and they want to give you hugs, and it's like, that's why I'm here. That's everything else is, minimal in comparison to the value and the victory that we have knowing that we've been able to help those individuals. It's precious.
You're doing more than just occupying their hours.
Right.
You're giving them something to look forward to. And that's what we need in our lives.
Yeah, and, we always have Christmas parties and Halloween parties and all those type of things. And I always laugh because I said, they know how to party. They're already in such a happy state that when they get into a point where it's party time, I wish I could let down like they let down and get down and party, because if we all lived our life with the same thought process as what those individuals do, we wouldn't need anxiety pills and we wouldn't need counselors, because they know how to shrug it off. Because if anybody has a hard time in life, these individuals do. Just surviving life. So I'm just so thankful that we can be a part of their life.
At least we think they have a terrible time.
Right.
But obviously, they know how to make lemonade out of the lemons, don't
Yes,
they?
they do.
And you're there to help them with that. Well, let's talk about the hands up instead of hands out, and wheels. Now, that's an acronym.
Correct.
Just like everything in today's world is an acronym.
Right.
Let's talk about a hand up.
A hand-up program was actually designed about 12 years ago. I worked at a utility company, and the president of the company came to me and asked me if there was a way that we could help low-income customers. And so I actually had a real-life experience of a family that had been disconnected, and they wouldn't pay anything on their bill. They'd wait until the local IHEB agency would pay, and then the utility company would sign an agreement with them to turn their services back on. And the family knew that 30 days into that agreement that the utility company was put into a moratorium and they couldn't disconnect till the following spring. So this whole scenario with the customer not paying, it went on for like 5 years. And the customers were referred to me because I was in the credit part of the agency at the time, and I thought, we're really not doing anything for these individuals. And there are rules by Illinois Commerce Commission and all that saying if they haven't paid a third, we don't have to do X, Y, Z. And so anyway, it really bothered me that we really weren't helping them and they weren't helping themselves. And so that's how the original program, before I even knew about Goodwill, come about. It was a hand up. And I went to the customer's home and I said, I can help you, but you have to help yourselves. And so I rounded up churches and donations of finances, and I said, if you will work, you and your wife, because they both were unemployed, I said, we'll pay you $10 an hour to help this local nonprofit I was working with. They were getting ready to open up a thrift store, and I said, if you'll help clean out that store, I said, we'll pay you $10 an hour, and they agreed to it. They worked for 3 weeks. When it was all said and done, we paid off a $2,500 utility bill, which had been on the books forever, and we bought them groceries. The churches bought them groceries, celebrating with them and whatnot. When we got their services turned back on and everything was what I thought was very good, the husband walked back in my office the following week, and I thought, what is it that I can help you with? And he said, I just wanted to come in and say thank you. He said, I've been unemployed for so long, and my self-esteem and my self-worth was so down. He goes, I didn't know that I was a valuable anything. And he said, when I started working through this program, he said, it felt so good, and I realized the worth that I had. He goes, I went out and started pounding the pavement, I got a job. That's been 15 years ago, and the individual started out as a trash collector on the back of a truck. He's a supervisor of that company today. So that same philosophy, the success, is what I brought to Goodwill. So we have been using that same concept to put people to work, but then we had been paying their utility bills in return, but we're getting ready to revamp that program so we can make it more as a temporary agency concept, so that we can train people in retail or customer service or whatever to help out our organization, but also we can open up that same avenue for employers if they're looking for that type of skill to contact us, and we'll have a trained person that already knows about it's, to be there on time and how to dress and all of that. So we're going to be molding that individual while they're in our environment. And it will, as I said, it'll have a double win-win, because we'll be helping an individual, really a triple. We'll be helping the organization, and should an employer need that, rather than them going through all the job search and training, we can say, sure, we've got 2 or 3 people, you can interview them.
You see, we just assume that you would know that if you're working from 9 to 5, that means you really are supposed to be there a couple minutes before 9.
Right.
You're not supposed to come tearing in at 25 to 10.
Right.
We assume that's basic, that you're born with that knowledge, but it's not quite true, is it?
No, it isn't. I mean, you have people who walk in the door at 10 till, and they'll just kind of mess around, and then at 8 o'clock, then they'll go fix a coffee, and they'll fix some toast, and it's like, no. That's not the way it works. At 8 o'clock, you're at your desk, you're working. So it's a whole different mindset, and it's a skill that a lot of employers deal with today. I'm not sure how that whole philosophy got ingrained in our society, but it's there. And so when we get this new hand-up program evolving and into the direction that we want it to go, that's the kind of program we want. We want a successful candidate to come out of that, so that an employer can be thankful that they've already been trained. They already know how to, clock in, clock out, understand there are policies, and you have to abide by your breaks and all of that. And we give a value added to our community through that way as well.
There are laws passed every day, or usually, I guess they're kind of lax about it anymore, but at any rate, both state and federal levels pass laws. And I suppose that in the beginning, each of them sounds real valid and means that it's going to mean things for the population. However, lots of times they kind of run amok. You were talking about iHeap, which is a valuable program,
yes, it is.
but you can milk it if you know how.
Yes.
And I'm sure that you must run into laws that have to be abided by. As a society, you can't exist
Right.
if you don't have a plan, But some of them are either archaic or they're serving nobody but the guy who passed them.
Right.
And that must be frustrating for you.
Yes, it is. But you have to learn how to be creative and work within the realms of the policy, but yet still be able to help people. And that can be quite challenging at times, It's just a process that you have to learn to, as I said, to integrate into whatever you're doing.
With the hands-up idea that we have here in this area of Goodwill, is that a part of Goodwill across the country?
No, it's just Land of Lincoln.
Uh-huh. It sounds so sensible. It just seems that it should grow across the world.
Well, as with any program, it takes money to do that. The state actually adopted the program and worked with me for about 2 years on it. And the state, through the LIHEAP program, which was a different funding mechanism at that time, actually funded the program of $2.2 million. And through that short time that the program was alive, it served 52 counties in the state of Illinois, and it helped over 5,000 people. But when the budget went kablooey in Illinois, then needless to say, the funding went away, and so the program itself I shelved for a while because it has to have a funding mechanism. Well, then when I came into Goodwill 7 years ago, and I had to laugh because you never know where you're going to be in your life until later you're there and you go, aha, now I get it. That was kind of the way I felt. I thought, before I even knew about Goodwill, I was designing a program that actually focused and supported the mission of Goodwill through a hand up, not a handout. I mean, that was the theme of the program. And here it is today, and it's inside the organization. And so, we've worked it and supported it, not to the capacity that it was going when it was in, state funded, because we don't have that kind of money. But the utility companies, they love the program because they're getting old bills and past due bills paid, but they don't want to give towards it. They like to have the hand up or the handout, but they don't want to do the hand up to support it. So they're
just going to cherry pick the line, aren't they?
Right, yes. So that's when I decided, who are we really helping here? Yes, we're helping the customer pay off a debt, but how are we really truly helping them? And so that's the reason why I've kind of shelved the program again and redesigning this into that design I talked about as a temporary service agency to other employers as well as us. So it's in the design process right now, so it's kind of on a holding pattern. And I'm making a lot of changes in that mission service component right now. That's going to only strengthen everything that we do, but be able to really impact lives in a more deeper capacity.
That is so great, but that's life, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Everything is always evolving.
Yes.
And we have to try and stay on that train. It's not easy sometimes. I'd like to hear about WHEELS.
WHEELS is the acronym for Workforce Hub for Employment, Education and Life Skills. And bottom line, what it is just an extension of the hand-up program, only it goes into more of the training component. So when an individual enters that program, they are going through all those classes in more intense interest or focus than they do through the hand-up program. The hand-up program basically was a work program where they'd sign a contract and come in and work off X amount of hours and get money on their utility bills, whereas the WHEELS program is that as well as the work program. So not only are they learning the skills, the resume writing, the dressing for success and all of that into more of an intense focus, but they're also placed into work, so they're getting kind of a double shadowing there. And it's a longer program. It lasts for about anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks depending on the need of the individual. So it's just like I said, it's just a kind of an umbrella to everything that we can put into one program.
Let's talk about Good Prospects, and that's also known as Crossroads.
That program was actually a funding through a federal grant that we had about a year ago, and that program provided all the computers that we have in our computer labs, and it really started the premise of the career development because we didn't have the money to start that program, and through this grant we were given laptops and computer stations and all of that, and so that provided that. And then we've just, even after the grant went away, we've continued that program on a much smaller scale, but we still have the program out there so that we can have our labs open to help people with all the computer side, and if they want to jump on the computer to look for jobs. And then it also involves, that's also a part of the WHEELS program as well.
How is that working for you, the Good Prospects or Crossroads with the computers? Are you finding that people are getting jobs? Because I should think that the young people, they're so adept at working with
they're amazing.
Anything that's technology. I should think that would give them a real hand up.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing since we opened the career development labs. Bottom line, a lot of it is by referral, so it depends on how much the people find out about it and have referred to us that we have that service available. But the computer labs are picking up more and more of individuals coming through the door. And the Crossroads program was actually a program that we worked with ex-offenders, that after they were released from prison, that they were referred to our agency, and same concept through the Wheels and career development, work with them, and we're still doing that on a much smaller capacity because we had to decrease staff in order to keep the program going, but we do help ex-offenders as well.
I'd like to talk a little more about that in a moment. We're going to take a commercial break, and that's something that means something to Lincoln Logan County because we have 2 prisons in our county.
Okay.
So let's discuss that a little more. We'll be right back after these messages.